Welcome back to Andres Today, where today we're going to be wrapping up Caylee Anthony, Where the Truth Lies. This is episode 3. The title is called What Remains. So we're going to wrap this up really quickly, guys. She kind of irritates me, so I kind of don't want to hear her voice anymore. No shade and no tea. I know that vast majority of people really don't even like this lady. My mom was telling me a little bit about this person as well. Was it my mom? I'm pretty sure it was my mom. My mom is the only person I really speak to about true crime. She loves it. So I just kind of want to not hear her voice anymore, so I'm gonna push right on through. I'm very happy it was only 3 episodes. Now, when it comes to the judgment on what happened, there was somebody who wrote on to episode 2. I can't remember the subscriber's name. Hopefully you're a subscriber. If not, why the hell not? But they said this scenario where they believe what could have happened. And when I was reading it, I was like, wow, this sounds right on the money. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, I remember it. I'll say it very quickly and then we'll jump right into this. But that subscriber, hopefully you are a subscriber, they said that pretty much, I don't even want to say it. Go check on episode 2, the comments down below. The reason why I don't want to say it is because I don't remember the word for word what they said, and I don't have the comment pulled up. And because this deals with a human life that was lost, this poor child that was lost and murdered, I just don't want to, like, you know what I mean, mess up, say something that isn't true or that somebody else said. I don't want to do all that. Just check out episode 2 and see what the comment section says. There's somebody that I know I liked the comment, and maybe I commented back that really had maybe their facts together or whatever the case the scenario is. But what they said, it rung a bell with me. You can ring my bell. I don't know why I did that. And I agreed. So I'm ready to move on, guys. But before we get into this video, please like and share this video. It does wonders for this channel. We are on the road to 10K. We are very, very close to getting to 10K. I don't know what number I'm on. I think I'm on 9,000. Am I on 9,000? Am I on 9,000 subscribers? I don't have any facts here. No, I'm about to get to 9,000, guys. We're almost there. So please like and share this video. Definitely hit a comment down below so I can read some of your comments. I love reading your comments. It really makes me happy. It makes me go to bed at night. If you guys want to support this channel and you want to see this in a full reaction, this will be available for a full reaction on my entire platform, actually, here on the YouTube platform, as well as the other platform, Patreon. So guys, please sign up to one of those platforms and help support the channel today. Now, just so you guys know, and FYI, if you would like to support all content creators, or just, I'll talk about myself, me, and you want to make sure that your support goes to that creator, in my opinion, in my view, although I am here on this wonderful platform of YouTube allegedly is now going to, the reason I say allegedly is because I didn't double check. Once again, this is not fact driven over here, this channel clearly, but they apparently are now going to be taking 40% of all earnings, including videos, everything from us content creators, because they are a wonderful platform. So if you want to make sure you want to support me, and if you feel comfortable, Patreon is the best place to go. The link is down below in the comment section. Okay, guys, without further ado, let's jump into Caylee Anthony's Where the Truth Lies and find out exactly what this documentary has to say. July 5th, 2011.
After 19 days of testimony, prosecution rests in their case against Caylee Anthony.
Potential of any kind of future hinged on the decision that those 12 people made.
Take a moment and explain what it feels like to be at the center of that.
I wouldn't wish this upon any of the people who were trying to kill me or any of the people who would be watching this and still thinking that I'm guilty.
As to the charge of first-degree murder, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty. As to the charge of aggravated child abuse, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
After 3 years of dread and sadness, finally, they proved my innocence.
That hug that Dorothy Clay Sims gave her of love and comfort and support allowed that and needed it and knew she needed it.
Even though the jury came back with a not guilty verdict, we were really afraid for her life.
Caylee Anthony's defense lawyers reported several death threats against her, including an image that showed her with a bullet through her head.
We knew we had to get the hell out of Dodge. And we went into this rental house, and Pat was there.
Done a lot of high-profile cases. I was a bodyguard for Yoko Ono. I sensed that it would get worse if we didn't have a plan. I don't know, maybe it's the Marine in me. I want to fight. We don't leave the wounded behind.
I was, at the time, decided I was leaving the country and moving to France. It occurred to me that she couldn't get a passport because of felony conviction, so she couldn't leave the country. Pat McKenna took in Casey when everybody else stepped away.
I brought her to my house. Everybody agreed, and I said, provide a year's worth of safety for this kid, being a sole practitioner. I'm a one-man band, and she's very organized, and so I saw that she could really help me out.
Casey lived with Pat. I mean, she no longer does.
My favorite picture, I will never not laugh at this. Pat offered to let me stay at his house for nothing. He's the guy that would walk me down the aisle if I was ever dumb enough to get married.
She's been in my family for 11 years going strong. So when I took Casey in, one of the rules was no photos. She's got more of a family here than she ever had. She became like a daughter.
She engaged in deep therapy. You had to move slowly because there were obvious trust issues. Sharing with the world every uncomfortable and embarrassing moment or conversation.
She completely fooled all of us.
Make me believe that she wasn't in some way responsible with Caylee's death.
The nanny's name got dropped, Zanny the nanny. I stood up and said she was using Xanax to babysit her kid.
Did you ever give Xanax?
No,
Caylee?
I never gave Caylee anything other than cold medicine when she had a cold. None of that is real.
I never saw Casey with Xanax. Just the fact that Zanny the nanny was said. Two of the people that I feel the worst for is Cindy and George. To not only lose your grandchild, but to lose your child at the same time.
You blamed her then and you blame her today. Yes, sir, I did.
What happened with my father was irreparable. And that's how I felt about my mom also.
Gut feeling inside, I believe Caylee was given something and she didn't wake up. She should be in jail because of Caylee not being here.
One of many that he and my mother did separately and together for money. Why exploit this situation any more than it has been? And it doesn't matter what I've done in between in the life I try to live. And every day I live with a broken heart. I want to know why she was taken out of my arms. Why didn't he call 911? I wasn't the only one that was home. And why, after all of this time, keep blaming me for something I didn't do?
Had the opportunity to see her through therapy and through long-term friendship, warm, loving, trusting, hilarious person that I know today. I know what her experience has been vaguely, but in terms of digging in, given her space, and I respect her boundaries. It's not my place to do anything but love and support her and give her space to tell her story.
I never pushed. I'm trying to provide a safe environment for this kid.
I know that hearing some of this is going to make them hurt too, because they're going to feel my pain. And that, more than anything, is the main reason I haven't talked about it. In this process of some of those boxes, I had to forcibly pull down off of a shelf and unlock. And when I finally was able to start to explore, it allowed me to work through some of that. I have to feel that deepest sorrow, and I'm grieving all over again. My father promised me that I could come home from this place, that everything was going to be okay, that Caylee was going to be okay. I'm remembering every fucking day that I spent here.
Into your room last night and just looked around and had a couple extra little prayers and just said, you're coming home soon, sweetheart.
Telling me that I was coming home soon, it would all be over soon. I just had to keep following his instructions. Told me what...
Where did he say that?
I don't believe my daughter could hurt anyone.
Why do you think she was arrested and charged?
Because they had her, like Cindy said, they had her mind made up.
In this interview, my father's telling the truth of my innocence, that law enforcement went after me.
The Florida grand jury indicted Casey Anthony on charges of first-degree murder.
Only non-law enforcement affiliated individual to be called to testify was my father, and he was their first witness.
Chose to put George before the grand jury. We don't know what he said, but we know they wound up with an indictment to charge her with first-degree murder.
I knew something was off, and I knew something was wrong, and the promises that he was making, he wasn't keeping.
He talked to me at the car as I was at the end of the driveway. I noted in my report what he'd said.
I'm trying to help your daughter. She's looking at death. Or else you can't believe anything she says.
How come she's supposed to be one place and then she's someplace else? Where's my granddaughter? I want to know this stuff.
It's a puzzle. There's just some pieces missing. We got to get these pieces. George is kind of leading this interview, and it's like, you're the fucking missing piece, George.
I was 22. I was a scared kid. To now, over the years, my anger just built. Would immediately go and report to law enforcement after he met with me on national television, acting like he was supporting me. Manipulation after manipulation after manipulation. But somehow, he got cleared by law enforcement from day one.
As far as any other suspects, the family. You're always looking at the family. Lee was much more reserved, as I recall, but George always tried to help.
How did you know at that point that she was the last person with the victim?
Well, that's what George had reported to us.
Trouble you that it was only George? You had no other witness for when Caylee left with Caylee?
You'd be remiss not to realize that as a possibility, but there was just nothing that led us down that road.
There was an honesty in George. It's the same questions we were asking are questions that he was asking. It's obvious that he wants to be the doting father or grandfather. Just the things he would say wasn't thought out before he would say it.
I'm trying to be the dad, the grandfather. George Anthony lives over in Oak Spring Drive. My daughter knows what's going on, and she's not saying a word. It boils down all that.
Everything that we found about George was that he was a loving grandfather.
You know, when I asked him about George, why wasn't George a suspect? He was a good guy, such a good guy. He's a good granddad. He loved his grandchild.
Yeah. What proof did you have of that? You don't eliminate a guy because he's a good guy, okay? I think they viewed George as, rather than just be a witness, he's like in on it with them. We're not looking any other place because it doesn't fit our story.
I cannot believe that Caylee Anthony still has friends.
Had a Google alert on me since just after I moved in. This woman of her own volition went back and started looking at stuff, and her reasonably unbiased view of the case helped me piece some of it together.
My name is Kristen Patton. I'm a citizen journalist. I have this idea that it's one way, and then you find out that the jury saw it completely different. Kind of fell down that rabbit hole of, I have to solve this case. I have to figure out what really happened to Caylee Anthony. One opinion about that George had said, I would find some other statement that contradicted that. And this is something that nobody ever noticed. Why didn't the media notice the differences? He wanted to help his daughter. But when the prosecution put him on the stand, build the prosecution's case.
Prosecutors painted Caylee as a monster. George Anthony was the first witness on the stand.
The prosecution wanted to say that there was a body in the trunk of her car. And George was the one who was establishing that she didn't want anyone near her car. He was the one who told the jurors that Caylee had human decomposition in her car.
Then he got back up, went back to the stand, filled in blanks for the state.
He wasn't just a witness, he was the prosecution's key witness.
That's a little weird.
Did it surprise you that George took the stand against Caylee so many times? Would you ever testify against your child in any situation?
Yes, I would testify against my own child. The reason why I believe that he did testify was because of the allegations that were made against him.
Sexually molested your daughter.
Forgot about that.
It was hard for me to believe the abuse allegation.
We talked to the psychologists who deal with people who've been sexually abused from a small age by a parent. Mind control that the parent has over that child that results who has the ability to go into these compartmentalized worlds of one world, one reality, and move into another.
I have to admit, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
This seems like bullshit. I don't know. This is kind of weird.
They had talked to Lee and told him, Lee, she could go to prison for the rest of her life. Then Lee called him and said, I need to tell you about how our pets were buried.
Dad, George, would wrap the puppy in a blanket, put it in a trash bag, and duct tape the trash bag. She does that. And of course, this is how Caylee's found, in a trash bag with duct tape. We're like going, George has something to do with something. He conducts an affair with a woman during this whole fiasco.
A woman who said she had an affair with Caylee Anthony's father took the stand for the defense.
I met him at a tent when his granddaughter was missing.
She said to me, I never asked George about what he's going through. And he just started to unburden himself.
It said it was an accident. that snowballed out of control.
Were you present when Caylee Anthony died?
No, and when I heard that today, it hurt really bad.
Based on the jury statements, they definitely questioned George's involvement.
They thought that George had very selective memory for me.
They felt like his story for that day was a little bit too perfect. You know, he was able to remember the exact color socks everyone was wearing.
Shorts on, her white sandals, pink socks, white sunglasses, her hair pulled back.
At his other testimony, he couldn't remember things that he should have a memory of.
What did Cindy wear that day? I have no idea. I couldn't tell you.
They were both not telling the truth about what happened that day. I didn't really understand why George was trying so hard to put his daughter on death row.
Not as emotional as you would expect someone to be in a situation like that, at least in my dealings with him.
But I know it was 10 minutes to 1 because I was watching this Food Channel thing that I watched.
Casey and Caylee left the house at 12:50.
We were able to pinpoint where Casey's cell phone was pretty much all the time. Our records show she was at or near that house that entire day until 4:11 in the afternoon. We have the cell locations of where she was, but to fill in the gaps, we have the computer record. That afternoon, someone searches for the term foolproof suffocation.
251, someone does a search for foolproof suffocation, clicking on several pro-suicide websites.
Everyone had each other's passwords because it was a family computer. Where he worked and where our house was located was less than 10 minutes.
At 3:02, we have George using his cell to call the house landline.
Okay. Pinging at work, or was it pinging closer to the house? And that's also part of the problem. We don't have George's cell phone records.
When did he leave the house? You know, did he go around the corner where the body was dumped? They either didn't have him or didn't turn him over to us because I don't know.
I believe we subpoenaed a number of phones, but I don't recall whose and you know what we subpoenaed.
Do those include cell tower locations?
No, they do not have cell tower information.
Information have been useful to you.
Believe that would play a part in this case, which at the time I did not.
Cops always got his back.
Look,
Always.
Just about everybody in the family told us one thing or another that wasn't true. Being a liar doesn't make somebody a murderer.
At the time, my nightmares started to increase based off of what happened in court.
I did smell a pretty strong odor.
Ran out of gas in front of that cash checking place. He said, "Don't worry about it, just leave it there. Park it somewhere where I can find it." And there was no smell when I left my car that day. I don't know what a dead body smells like. I left garbage in the car. There were 3 bags and a pizza box. I know when I got home and that car was there and there was a smell. I've never smelled that in my life even prior to.
And you don't call the police.
Right.
No, sir, I did not.
And you don't call your daughter to see if she's okay.
Didn't call my daughter at that time.
Call my daughter to inquire about her or Caylee at that time. I didn't. At the time, sir, I wasn't a detective. I'm just a father and a grandfather.
My father would know protocol and procedure, how to work a scene. He didn't inquire to where Caylee was because he was the only one who knew where she was. Sitting there staring daggers at this man.
With no eyebrows.
That's so long for me to get to that point. And I get that's not something that people really get or understand, but it's like you have Stockholm syndrome. He knew that his actions, his behavior, his words could potentially kill me.
And he didn't care.
George Anthony became the star witness for the state when the goal of the state was to kill his daughter. He lost me.
He also was the star witness in front of the grand jury to make the indictment what it was. Would you testify as a star witness in a trial that would get your child death for that accident?
What you just told me, I have never heard that before. Why, if you did think it was an accident, would you want the death penalty? That doesn't make any sense.
You saw on television that.
Oh my God.
This is a sad. Guys,
that is.
He's not a good actor.
Why did he want his daughter to die for an accident?
Covering up his own tracks or something, I guess.
This documentary just lost me.
This is blowing my mind right now.
To turn everything on.
Do you mind if I take like a 5-minute break? I need to like recollect my thoughts.
That doesn't seem that shocking to me.
Recovering from a car crash that nearly took his life.
A few years ago, he'd been in a severe car accident.
I would like to just tell her I'm sorry. You know, that I forgive her. I need to be forgiven by her and my son and other family members or friends that I care so much about.
Yeah, she asked the question. I want to know the answer to that. What does he need to be forgiven for?
Forgive me for what I've done to all of our lives. What do you want her to forgive you for? I don't know. I guess that's something I'll have to wait to hear from her.
What does he need to be forgiven for? Report him for what he did to me. There's no statute of limitations in the state of Florida for what he did to me.
So do it.
To us.
But he said he used to love the sweet smell of Caylee's sweat.
Casey, he said that at Caylee's funeral.
What better way to memorialize your granddaughter than to tell the world that you were abusing her too? I just remember being told that it was said. Sorry, is the mic good? Still, KO? Yeah. You're gonna ask that question. Not today.
What do you think my question was gonna be?
What happened after this morning? After that? I need to watch her funeral.
You talked about showing you the footage of the memorial that you had never seen.
You didn't watch a funeral of your daughter until right now.
I wasn't allowed to be at her funeral. I was sitting in jail. I begged my mom to have a private, quiet funeral.
I stand here today, proud, who not only meant the world to me, but meant the world to my family. Smell her hair. Smell the sweet sweat when she came in from outside. But to get a hug from a small child, that gives me energy like you couldn't imagine.
You guys aren't normal.
Nothing about that is fucking normal.
This documentary isn't normal.
Jesus Christ.
They're all creepy. I don't like this whole family.
What are you thinking?
That this documentary sucks. You all suck. You never seen your daughter's funeral that you talked about how much you love? So right now while you're being filmed?
I know what he did to me.
Did you do everything in your power to protect your daughter?
I thought I did. I didn't leave when I should have. I should have, the moment I found out I was pregnant, I should have just left. She was never left alone with my dad. Not even when she was an infant. And then my parents' marriage imploded in November of 2005. It was just us. It was just the 3 girls in the house. Her and I and the baby. 11 years. I finally felt safe because he wasn't there. I wasn't worried in these moments that I was with her. I wasn't afraid. I feel like so much of her facade was being strong. I could see through the cracks in the facade. And there was a level of codependency. I knew from that point forward, I had to get out as soon as possible.
What do you remember?
Not wanting to be home because both of my parents were there. He had just moved back in a little bit before this. Not tell very many people where I was working, what I was doing, how I was making money. And I had to get out of that house, to get away from those people and to start over. Transitioned into working in the nightlife, bartending. I had been telling my mom that I was still working at Universal since I had left Universal. I didn't want her to know my plan to leave until I was ready to tell her that I was moving away. You have no idea the guilt trip she would lay on me the moment I would make a decision for myself. I also wasn't being honest with a lot of the people who were in my life because I didn't want things getting back to my mom. Zenaida Gonzalez, or Zanny the nanny as she was referred to, allegedly living. Caylee was either with me at night or with my mom. There was no third party. There was no other person. I wanted to have a night with my friends, but I also wanted to have my daughter there with me because I knew my father was going to be home. I'm gonna drop her off with my friend Zanny. You know, that was kind of how that started.
Let's go to the day where you tell law enforcement about Zanny the nanny.
Wanted me to be biggest and best liar that I could be. That if they looked at me and that I was lying to them, they weren't going to believe anything that I said, even if at that point I said my father did all of this.
Even though you felt that body in your arms and you knew that something was terribly wrong.
Told me she was going to be okay. There was that little girl inside of me that wanted to believe he wouldn't hurt her. There was nothing for her to have shimmied up. To me, there's no way of explaining that. Unless he put her in the pool to cover up what he did.
Why would he put her in the pool?
That they would have looked at it as a drowning and not actually examined her body. I was incapacitated as a child where my body was limp and lifeless. And I wish every day I would have said something to somebody at some point. But there's always going to be that little part of me that wonders. Because if she was still alive, then where was she? And what happened from there? Was there something that I could have done to have changed things? If I talked to my mom too much or I said the wrong thing, would it have triggered something? It just keeps becoming bigger and bigger.
Did he take her away to abuse her? That's the darkest question, isn't it?
I live with that guilt of feeling like I failed her and didn't keep her safe and protect her. I don't know if it would be better to know or just keep not knowing.
I think about this case all the time. all these years afterwards. And if he's a pedophile, I surmise that maybe he had abused the little one, Caylee. Maybe that started this cover-up of what actually happened. I'd want to go more into that with her. What is George's role? I didn't think we needed to until you decided to do what we're doing now. We did our job, it was over. But what happened in those 30 days? And I said, I don't know.
He had me hook, line, and sinker, waiting for him to tell me where to meet him. Because if I did what he wanted me to do, he had me the whole time thinking Caylee was alive and she was okay. 14 years almost. And especially during this process, having those epiphany moments where something clicks. George's clips from the funeral.
I've always had my eyeball on George, and the pool, it didn't make sense, didn't make total sense, you know.
Well, my thought was that he was using that as a way to cover up.
And I got to tell you this for the first time. There was an accident. George was involved, and I don't think the accident was in the pool.
He'd put a pillow over my face and he'd smother me to knock me out. That happened.
Really?
That happened several times.
That could be the accident.
Listen,
possible.
We don't like uncertainty, and I think that's kind of a hard thing for us to deal with, and that's not really ever how it works. The police never looked at George as a suspect. That's not something they should have let go.
I would have done any and everything that he told me to do.
Why was your reflex to protect him?
Same reason that so many victims protect their abusers. And you don't want to believe that they were doing what they were doing because they were trying to hurt you.
I'm never going to have full closure. People are still so hooked on this is because they feel they need closure. I didn't get the ending that I wanted because I didn't get my kid back. That's the only ending I wanted. We all talk about all the things that we have in a lifetime, and I had the shortest life with her.
The quality of your voice as you speak to me now is completely different than the beginning.
Just like I was completely spliced open and everything just came out. And my entire life protecting our perfect, beautiful little family. I'm angry that I'm a victim. It's a hard thing to live with every day. Always be trapped here. But it's a part of me that I tried so hard to continue to just let go. As much as I want to hate this house, part of me will always love it too, because it was her home. There's a box of ashes inside, and I've asked several times now for them. And my mom won't give them back to me. She should have been able to go and see herself. I wanted her to travel, to do all the things I never got a chance to do. All of the rest, not worth holding on to. It's just easier to let it all go.
If I can see the sun going down. Well. So, yeah. Okay, so I can tell you guys something. By the ending of that documentary, I completely zoned out. I completely showed you guys what ADD looks like. I completely left the documentary. Not even by the ending, I think probably halfway through, right when that guy who the whole time, listen, I shouldn't even say this. That one guy, the one guy in particular who always, as soon as he came on, kind of rubbed me wrong. He kind of reminds me, I'm not saying this is what he does, but he kind of reminds me of people that I knew when I was growing up that was on like pills himself. Like they were on pills, they were on drugs, and they just, the way they carried themselves and the way they spoke, that's exactly what he reminded me of from the first time he appeared in the documentary. Then what was solidifying everything for me dealing with him, the reason why I feel like he was planted there, and this is just me and just observing him and watching him so closely, was they would ask a question. Now to enforce this into your brain of what they were trying, the message they were trying to get to the viewers, was they would ask this question and he would repeat the question and then answer it. So, like, I remember in school, they would say, the way you would answer like a question, like, oh, how many apples on the tree did Peter eat? Oh, Peter ate 6 6 apples that was on the tree, or something like, you know what I mean? I don't know how to phrase it. I feel like that was a really dumb example. But the way he was reciting this stuff is pure classic, like, brainwash you to make you hear this message over and over and over again. I felt like the man, her lawyer, I feel like he wasn't, I think that he was just being genuine throughout this whole series. I think like the lawyer team generally was really just being genuine, telling how they feel, telling about their stories, telling about how they feel about Casey. I feel like overall what I've taken from this is I think Casey and her father are both guilty. I feel like there is something that obviously has happened there, and this is somebody who doesn't even, I didn't know Casey Anthony and the case and everything that was happening while it was happening. I was like a little kid when obviously this was going on. But just the documentary alone that was obviously trying to justify Casey. There was a part of this in the episode that they said closure, that everybody wants closure. They mentioned that about like, I want to say 6 times. And then to have the end scene where Casey was said, yeah, you know, I always thought it was him, you know, there was times when I didn't want him to touch me, and he would put a pillow over my face to knock me out. Then you see, after all of this, now let me let you guys also know, I know plenty of people, which is crazy, but I know a lot. I know on both hands, at least both hands of people that was abused when they were young. I could tell you, not one of those people would ever have a kid and then let their kid hold their child, even if they weren't alone. No. Even if they were not alone, they would never, ever let their kid be around that child. I don't even think they would want to be around. They would get icky sticky around. They would feel gross. I totally think her father had something to do with something. But I think that it got to the point where he was like, yeah, I'm going to, this is what comes off to me. I feel like he first was in it with her. Yeah, just do this and this. When he saw it wasn't going that way, especially him being a detective. One thing also, cops will stick up with cops. That is a guarantee. I feel like there was so many different elements in it. The reason why he was not, cops will stick up for cops. I know somebody is a cop somewhere trying to write on my reaction. But the fun fact is that it will take a lot for them to throw one under the bus. So he probably had some information about this case that was going on that nobody else knew. I bet you money that people were telling him things. He obviously, being a detective, he had influence and power, and he had knowledge of other people in higher places that could easily go and do what they need to do to find out whatever they need to find out or turn things around. So he definitely being an ex-cop definitely helped him. Okay, so I think that he figured out maybe his plan was to go with how it was going and to throw his daughter on the bus. For you to, I mean, there's just, I think everybody's just so fucked up. Excuse my language. Oops, I always forget that. You can't curse anymore on YouTube. But yeah, it's just crazy. There was so many things in this. When I wanted to tell you guys, when that guy was like so shocked and appalled, oh my God, what you just said blew my mind. He said she was innocent, but was still trying to get her sentenced to death. Give me a second. I need to walk away. Both of them. You guys couldn't see it on the TV, what I just saw, like real life, real time, that he was doing that. He was saying on TV that she was innocent, and then he switched it around and was in the case and was clearly trying to helping the prosecutors. Clearly. You guys didn't see that? Why is this a shocker to you? I'm shocked that you're shocked about this situation. You need to tell me the tea. Something is not making any sense. I don't like it. Yeah, something's going on. That documentary, and then to say about that pillow, girl. Well, why didn't you say that you didn't say that not once, even when you were telling us that you were looking at him in court after you said he molested you. I shouldn't have said that word. Not on this platform. Even when he said he did what he did, you still didn't even want to say, listen, not only did he did this to me, but he would smother me. Then they talked about the tape, what he would do with the animals when they had animals. But that doesn't mean that he did that to the child. You've seen it. You both are reiterating something that he did with all these animals that died. So you guys could have done that as well. You've seen it when a kid. Why is that to be only him who did it? I don't know. Let me tell you something. I think that family is twisted. How I feel. I don't really know much about the mother or the son, but how this documentary painted both of them. Casey, I don't know, maybe in Florida they're over there still talking about you, girl, but here in New York City, I promise you, nobody was talking about you, girl. Promise you. So this documentary just put to light about your situation. I even think the people who were around at that time as adults probably are right now, like literally sipping tea and eating crumpets. Like nobody's bothering you, girl. So you just kind of threw this back in everybody's faces. So now, not only were the people who were around at that time now knowledgeable of what happened and now don't like you even more, but now people of the younger generations that did not know who you are with this, if they were interested in this documentary, now know who you are and now are questioning you and side-eyeing you. Now, the jurors probably found you not guilty, girl, because they had reasonable doubt. Now, in the conviction, jurors have to be 100% with certain cause and probability that you were the murderer. You were the person that did what you did. But honey, if they even had one person that said that, yeah, no, it wasn't her, or I have kind of feeling like maybe the father was involved, that's why you got the not guilty plea. That doesn't mean you're not guilty, sis. That just means they had reasonable doubt that there was something else that was going on, and maybe it was your father. So if I was a juror, I probably would have said the same damn thing, because you and your father both seem like creepy crawlers, and I really feel like that you both had something to do with this. I think you both were in on whatever the hell happened. I think exactly what other people said, an accident happened, and then you guys try to cover it up, and fortunately people found out about this cover up and it was brought to light, and sadly nobody was arrested for this murder of this young beautiful child that is not here. And you over here fake tearing, I don't want to say fake tearing, but you over here with the drama and all the dramatics. You also said that you could see, I'm reading her, this is me reading, take her to the library. You also said that you could, there's no statute of limitations to what your father did. Well, the last video we've seen of your father, it looked like he had cranes coming off from his shoulders and over his head. He looked like a lamp. Okay, we just need a shade and put a light bulb on it and call it a day. So if you really feel like your father actually did what he did to your daughter, honey, then if there's no statute of limitations in Florida and you over there in Florida still, which we know you are, why don't you go handle that, sis, instead of making a documentary? And why did you not see the funeral of your daughter that this whole thing should have been about, but it was more about you, talking about you? Why didn't you see the video of your daughter's funeral before this documentary that you are now broadcasting to the entire world? Wouldn't you want that to be at least a little secretive and have that moment with you and you alone and your daughter that you claim you love so much? And I'm not saying that you don't love your daughter. I actually believe so hardly that she really loves her daughter. And really so hardly feels like she is very upset that her daughter's not around. But I just really feel it very strange that you are up on this documentary on Peacock, which a lot of people don't even have. But you had that moment with all of us. It doesn't make sense. And also the smell of sweat, child, he's a creep, she's a creep. I wouldn't trust either one of them with a dollar bill or even 50 cents to make, or even 25 or 50 cents. Can you make a collect call? I wouldn't trust them with nothing, either one of them. I think she's a compulsive liar. I think she got it from her daddy, and it is what it is, and it's very sad that that child is no longer here. That is my opinion. That was my deep dive into this documentary. I think that if I was a judge, I would put them both behind bars, guilty as charged. I think they should reopen the case. Actually, they should reopen the case because a human life is gone and we should find justice for all. With that being said, I will see you guys next time with another one of these documentaries.